I'm Jim Morningstar, the director of the Integrative Life Teacher Training Program and director of the School of Integrative Psychology and the Transformations Breathwork Training Program. I'm so glad to be interviewing today a longtime friend and colleague, Andy High. Andy is actually a carpenter by profession who started to get into personal growth work some 19 years ago. As he was in the School of Integrative Psychology and took courses, I encouraged him to assist and to share with other people. Actually, he turned out to be very good at that, of which I was so proud and pleased. Now, Andy has continued to be a carpenter, and he can tell you about that, what he does there. But throughout, he has assisted in many of our breathwork trainings and other courses in the School of Integrative Psychology, for which I am eternally grateful, because the simplicity and heartfelt approach to treating other human beings as a whole person and coming from love is what I want to see our school represented as. So I invited Andy to talk with us today just about his calling, about being a teacher, because I believe that many of you listening to this have a similar calling. The truth be told, I think everyone is a teacher of some sorts. And how that manifests is different for each of us. So Andy, could you share with us a little bit about how coming to be a teacher came about for you?
There was quite a bit of time that went by in my life where I didn't even contemplate teaching or being a teacher. And I guess one of the first experiences I had in that realm would be over the course of my time in construction. I had the opportunity to teach young apprentices, carpenter apprentices, the trade of carpentry. And so then that was a little bit of a taste of it. And then when I got into personal growth work, spiritual growth work, actually having started to do some spiritual and personal work prior to meeting you, I thought, oh, I'm just the student here. And I'm going to soak in as much as I can from these masters that I was presented with. And it was people like you, teachers in various forms that helped me to understand that we're mirroring each other and that we can be student and teacher at the same time. And that we can learn from each other, and that ultimately I most likely had some very important things for others to learn from me. And it was that was kind of like a little bit of a spiritual awakening for me to think like, oh, really? I have something to offer? Instead of just being the eternal student. So that there was an excitement when I discovered that I too had that teacher self in me. And then it became more fun. And actually, there was a very emotional component to it. And as you and I have shared many breathwork trainings together, it's those moments where you are witnessing the deep work that our fellow students and our clients, our just fellow spiritual community members, they're doing some very deep work, and how honoring and inspiring and just what a profound experience it is to witness that deep work, that growth that people are going through. And that's what hooked me into being part of like breathwork training teams and to offering both individual sessions in breathwork and facilitating group breathwork. So,
Wow, Andy, it was inspiring for me to watch you interact with other people in the breathwork setting. What would be an example of something that inspired you from one of the people that you were working with, an experience that you had that was inspirational for you?
an example I might give is someone having experienced abuse as a child, and the fear that they came into our sessions with, and how the courage that they displayed in saying, yes, that this issue, this experience has impacted my life in such a deep way. And you know what? I want to heal from it. And that, to me, is an example of the most inspiring work that I've witnessed other people doing, because it, for one thing, like I said, it runs so deep to the core of their being, and yet they said that energy will no longer control me, and I want to live a more full, joyful, and free life. And that, to me, is some of the most inspiring energy I've ever been around.
Well, I second that, Andy. That has touched me very deeply, the courage that people have in our work. And even though much of our work has been very profound, very serious, we've also done healing through the joyful aspects of our work. I remember you being a partner with me in many, many of our weekend retreats, breathwork retreats, where a part of it was we had to play together. We had to play together. I say we loved playing together. And every one of the small groups put on a little skit, as it were, which was hilarious. It really let our hair down. That is when we used to have hair. It really let us play together, and joy was also such a healing part of living, being in community, having fellow beings that from all walks of life, and we didn't even know what they did necessarily in their quotes day job, but what we knew was that we felt a kinship with them, and you had a special quality of creating safety for people. And I don't want to embarrass you, Andy, but there's a nickname that you came to be known as. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Well, Jim, I believe you came up with it in response to some of the work we were doing, and it was leading up to one of these sharings that we were going to do in front of the group, and you named me Mr. Love. And I've done my best to live up to that, and sometimes it seems like a kind of a heavy mantle to carry, and yet I fully embrace it. So
Yes.
thank you for suggesting it to begin with.
Yes, you've not only embraced it, but I think you've inspired others to see themselves as love too. Well, Andy, what do you see calling you in the future? Have you any ideas about where this path of being an integral life teacher would take you, or where you would like it to take you?
Well, Jim, once again, it occurs to me that I'm not always sure where this path is taking me, and sometimes I've allowed that to like to shake my confidence, and yet you and I have spoken many times. I continue to be called to breath, and I can continue to be called to many forms of healing work. Now, as we're sitting here in this moment, something that occurs to me is to combine the breath work that we do with some of the shamanic training that I have been involved with in the last couple of years, which also has a quite deep spiritual component to me, as well as touching all facets of my being. And I guess I never thought of it earlier in my life, but this shamanic work has a big emotional component in it for me, in that the whole idea of connecting with the spirit of all things, it's quite exciting to me, and it's quite inviting to me to think that I am part of it all. And so that kind of energy is something that I envision bringing into breath practice and breath facilitation. And just spot on this moment, that's something that I see evolving as I go forward.
I totally invite it and embrace it, Andy. I've said that therapeutic breath work is known to have a large toolbox, which, and that means we're always looking for new tools to work with the breath. And your courage, as you said, over the past couple of years to travel to other states to take shamanic training is pure gold as far as I'm concerned. And I embrace it and invite it and look forward to our continued adventures.
Well, thank you, Jim.